your guy, Nicholas Wilcox here, alongside my guy to the left of me, cool man, awesome man, one and proud, unc/cousin, Johnny May. Johnny, what up? Say what's up to the great people of all the land.
What up, man? Week 8, get ready to get it straight out the gate, man. You know, we're recovering a little bit from my birthday party / Halloween / shindig, but nonetheless, man, we here, we live, we're ready to go, man, and ready to help these people get to the bag and one step closer to the playoffs here in week 8, man.
I agree. Yeah, it's just we're ready to get things rocking and rolling. Thank you all for who are patiently waiting for us as we get this thing kicked off, because you know life can just hit us sometimes in the throat, and sometimes we got to recover from it. But week 8, the Fantasy Football Show is here in the house. We got the DFS, the props, the bets, the picks, and your start sits. Nothing more to do than to go right into it. Starting with our first game of the slate, we got the Ravens, 5-2 Ravens, getting 8 points as a overall favorite on the road, going to Cleveland, who's 1-6. A lot of changes to go over in terms of the Browns side of things. We have obviously Ken Dorsey now started playing, doing the play calls now for the Browns. We have Winston starting now, obviously due to Deshaun Watson, Achilles tear. Nick Chubb is back. Obviously, that was last week, but now he should be a little bit more utilized this week. There's a few things in terms of, this line was, I think, 10 at one point. It dropped down a few points. So I think this is based on how the Browns defense has really been playing the last couple of weeks, because they've really been only holding teams to less than 21 points, 21 points or less in back-to-back games between the Bengals and the Eagles. So there's a lot to love in terms of potentially a betting side of things. From a DFS side of things, probably not too much. Because if you do play anything DFS related here, it's pretty much going to be the chalk. But what do you say, Johnny, in terms of who you like for sides? Can the Browns cover at home? Is this one of those situations where this is a trap game for the Ravens? Like, for all the success they've had on offense, what are you saying here?
I mean, for me, I think this game feels weird to me. And it feels weird just because now the Browns are going to have call it whatever you want to call it, man. It's a significant upgrade in my opinion, at quarterback now with Jameis Winston there. So I think from a DFS perspective, right, you talked about some of the chalkier plays. Cedric Tillman's one of the chalkier plays. Good punt play, man, to help you get to a lot of high-priced players, man, is, we'll talk about the Cincy and Philly game, but that's the player for me, man, when you think about it, that helps you get to some of the higher-priced players on this slate. If you want to get really unique, you can go obviously with the Jameis Winston, Cedric Tillman, David Njoku stack with a run back maybe of Derrick Henry or something like that. I like Jameis Winston this week, man. I think one of the things that has gone undersold initially has been the Baltimore Ravens and their pass defense. It's one of those defenses that typically, because teams are playing from behind, they're having to throw the football. So, I'm playing some Jameis today, man, and I'm playing some Cedric Tillman for sure. As far as from like a covering side of things, you obviously got to take the Ravens straight up, man. I mean, they're one of the 4 to 5 best teams in football, and I think, I'm not gonna mess with the over under, and I'm probably missing the boat on this right here. But I just think this is one of those games where it's week 8. And we don't know a whole lot about what this is going to look like. And with Ken Dorsey, the one thing we know about Ken Dorsey is in the Ken Dorsey offense, they're going to throw the football. And Jameis Winston is going to throw the football. I'm not really messing with the over, the under, the spread, or anything like that. I'm really more into this one from a DFS side of things.
The only reason why I would take the over is because, again, like you just talked about, the Ravens' pass defense is a little bit more susceptible to getting thrown upon, because you're not going to really attack the Ravens too hard when it comes in between the tackles. Like, especially with Nick Chubb just coming back, like I assume that you'll get him his, maybe a few more touches than you did last week, just to keep the defense honest. But it's Jameis Winston. We all know he likes to overall cannon the ball constantly. So if anything, like if I was touching this game from a betting side, I'd probably take Winston's passing yards over. I think it's 235 right now on most books. it made my short list, but I didn't take it. But it's one of those situations where you love in terms of the Browns potentially covering the 8 because they're going to be casting constantly, unless the Ravens just constantly beat them down, which is possible too. So that's where I'm not really touching this game like that in terms of all sides, DFS, stuff like that. Betting side we'll get to at the end of the show. So everyone's sticking to for the Nick Prop Shop. We'll get into at the end of the show in terms of bets. But I would say there's a player or two I may touch in this game, obviously. But other than that, it's kind of like it's not really something on my radar either. So with that being said, next game, we got a divisional AFC South opponents here. We got the Colts getting 5 on the road. They're 4-3 on the season. Going to Houston, who's 5-2 on the season. The over-under 45.5. These teams played back in week 1, in which the Texans barely prevailed. This game actually hit the over in that game as well. So Johnny, in terms of, I mean, look, I feel like for DFS points, DFS side of things, the GPP play, is Richardson because no one's feeling they're going to touch him 5,800. Mixon's probably the shock, and then Tank Dell, Stroud, stuff like that, they all get mixed in. Taylor's coming back as well off the ankle injury. Taylor is 7,500, so that's not too much of a discount in my opinion. Because he's actually higher than Breece Hall this week, higher than Bijan Robinson this week on DK, higher than James Cook, higher than freaking, a ton of other guys.
Higher Snoop Dogg, higher than Snoop Dogg.
I mean, yeah, no. Like I'm kind of not understanding that from a price perspective. That's literally GPP play to me though, because Mixon's then only 7,700, kind of Walker's 7,800. So it's like there's a lot of like. I think there's definitely some price misconception we could take advantage of because obviously DraftKings is that, they implemented the system where now it's like they have to do a little bit more prices can't get too high or really too low in terms of like their algorithm. So that's where kind of like this thing goes. But what do you say, Johnny, in terms of the game in itself? Do we expect Stroud to have something similar to a performance he had last week, or is this the bounce back spot at home? Stroud, like I said before, always plays better at home. In terms of, his production. So it's not too surprising that he didn't look that great last week against the Packers. But what do you say in terms of the line, in terms of these players, all things considered?
Well, Colts are giving up the 8th most passing yards per game to quarterback. So I think there definitely is an opportunity for CJ Stroud to get back and to get right.
Colts are also giving up 2nd most rush yards as well.
Yeah, and also too, this was Anthony Richardson's best game of the year came against the Texans in week 1. So I think like this is definitely a wild card game. I think like from a DFS side of it, you're right? Like as far as like the pricing for Joe Mixon, you can take him kind of with the field, or you can get unique and you can take Ken Walker, which it doesn't look like a lot of people are playing in that price range. I've actually done a little bit of both this morning for some of the lineups that I've built. However, I am starting to fall more in line with like being a Joe Mixon believer, as he was somebody that I totally at the beginning of the season and during the summer was not buying the hype for. And then I think like when you think about like these Texans wide receivers, man, it's just getting really difficult to trust any of them, from a DFS side of things, man. But I do think this is a definitely a nice get back place for CJ Stroud. I do think it's definitely a nice get back place for him. And like with Mixon, man, like I think like what you're gonna get, right? Like they're running the football a little bit more. Sometimes I think we see senior quarterbacks typically, defenses start to figure them out. There's a little bit more on film, a little bit more of film on them. So the things that were working last year aren't necessarily working again for them for this year. So for me, man, this is one of those situations where, I mean, like a DFS side of things, I'd be cool taking the Texans defense, especially at home with the way Anthony Richardson's been playing. So I would do that. And then I think obviously, you look at a guy like Dalton Schultz, like you could do something like that right there at the tight end spot on the DFS side of things, because that's just a place to get a little bit different. As obviously Nico Collins is still not around, and I'm trying to see like his price point as well. His price point is 4,100 on DraftKings. So that's definitely not a bad price. Him and Mark Andrews right around the same place. Taysom Hill, Kate Otten. So just a a place if you wanted to get different, other than going to the Chalk K Dot, you can maybe give that a shot as well. Going there, and then on the other side of things, man, like you talked about, Jonathan Taylor's coming back. It seems to me, man, that like when players come back from injuries, like especially Jonathan Taylor specifically, man, it's always like this slow burn. So I'm not getting there to him this week. I'm gonna give it another week, see how he looks. But I will tell you this, man, Tyler Goodson has absolutely looked really well over the last handful of weeks. So, like, I think it might be one of those situations where it's a 50-50 and they kind of ease him into it, depending on game script and how it goes. If this game gets out of hand, I would think you might not see him. But, man, you got the 4-3 Colts and the 5-2 Texans, man. This is, for as bad as Anthony Richardson has been, the Colts still making some hay there in that AFC South, man.
Literally finding ways to win, which is crazy. Yeah. George Play, my guy, our guy, asking a question about, his standard format. He needs 2 to start: Waddle, Moore, Brian Thomas, or Cooper. So start 2 out of these. For me, it's going to be DJ Moore and Brian Thomas, because Brian Thomas has been on fire lately. He's pretty much have been all season in terms of his production. Besides like basically one game, he's pretty much been a really good rocket for you. Jaguars are going to be behind. I expect him to get a ton of usage. The Amari Cooper thing, I'm sure he'll see more snaps and everything. Obviously now in Buffalo, and he did well with the limited snaps he had last week. I don't know. I just feel like Brian Thomas should get a lot more usage in terms of how they're going to keep on throwing. And then DJ Moore for me is obviously a good play because, I think the Bears come out to bye. They want to get him a lot more involved as well. So I'm just pushing those 2 guys in terms of I think selections. But Johnny, what do you say?
I'm on the Amari Cooper train, man. And the reason why I'm on the Amari Cooper train is, like you mentioned, man, like he's got another week with Josh Allen. And I think the Seattle Seahawks last week, I think they played over their head last week playing against Atlanta. The Seahawks have typically been a get right spot. A couple of busted plays last week, man, really put the Seahawks in a really good place. So I'm buying Amari Cooper. And then from there, man, I'm with you, like with Brian Thomas and DJ Moore for sure. I think Brian Thomas's game script is definitely going to be there, right? Because the Jacksonville Jaguars shouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell against the Green Bay Packers today. And then even with DJ Moore, he's somebody that, I do like. I've got him in a couple of my DFS lineups as well as Brian Thomas. DJ Moore, man, I think like you're spot on, right? Like, I talked about it on Tuesday's show. I love where Caleb Williams is trending. I think this is like him taking that next step. And if Jaden Daniels does play today, this game definitely has the potential to be a shootout. The only problem, man, for me with DJ Moore is you run into the same problem that you could argue that you run into with the Green Bay Packers, which is you have all these weapons, and there's a lot of players on the field and a lot of mouths to feed. With Brian Thomas, he's the only show in town. Mark Cooper's the only show in town. So definitely, I think we can both agree on Brian Thomas. And then from there, it's either Amari Cooper or DJ Moore, man.
Pretty straightforward. I mean, look, like the only reason why we're really not considering Waddle just yet is because I just need to see it from Waddle. Like, unfortunately, it's just one of those seasons right now that for Waddle is like he's starting to just look like the odd man out. Because even coming off the bye week last week, they weren't even utilizing him. They were using Jonnu Smith. Like, so it's like I don't know where Waddle stands. Like, he's someone I'd like to trade for and would come to season long leagues. But he's probably not someone I'm starting just yet, especially in a standard format. So George Play, we got you. Other questions you guys got, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll get to them in a timely fashion. Next game we got the crap game of the week. We got the awful New York Jets, the 2-5 New York stupid ass Jets. The 1-6 awful New England Patriots over under 40.5. Not touching this game unless it's Breece Hall. That's it. What you got, Johnny? Keeping it short and simple this week.
Oh man, I love it.
I know you do.
Oh. Oh man. I think I definitely like the Jets in this game, right? This is one of those games where I feel okay about. I don't feel great. I feel okay about taking the Jets and the points in this game right here for sure. I think Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, they got another week together just to kind of get back on track. So I think you will see Devontae Adams being heavily featured. And then, like I said, man, talked about it on Tuesday as well, man. Like Brees Hall, I just think like you should see something different from him in the passing game as far as like his utilization. It seems like at this point, that is where they get their biggest bang for their buck as a team is utilizing him in the passing game. So I'll be interested to see, how that shakes out this week. And then for the Patriots, man, I think, obviously, hey, man, it's just another week of Drake May and seeing what he brings to the table. But I mean, the Jets defense should be able to smother these guys out offensively. Patriots, again, showing up with little to no offensive weapons in the passing game. Should be pretty straightforward, man. It should be Jets in an easy win in this one right here. And like from a DFS side of things, we could say the same thing, man. Jets defense should definitely be in play here with an under that's almost hitting 39 at 40.5. So the Jets defense should be in play. And even if you really wanted to get really contrarian, you could maybe even slide the Patriots defense in there as well to kind of give you maybe a little bit more salary to get up to some of those higher priced players that we have on the slate this week.
Yeah, I mean, look, makes sense. I mean, the New England cheapies come into play because I think Drake May has been looking okay. I think in terms of the Jets getting susceptible, you want to attack the middle of the field, attack the linebackers. But I think it's just one of those spots where, yeah, if you need a cheap person to plug and play, like, makes sense. I mean, Hunter Henry probably comes to mind for me because that's just where, again, this guy's Jekyll and Hyde, but it's also, I think Drake May is finally utilizing him in a way that's like, beneficial. You know what I'm saying? And, Hunter Henry in terms of like, tight ends this week, 3,800 versus, like you said, the Kate Otton is going to be really popular. Hunter Henry to me is someone that I could definitely attack in terms of, using him in a lineup or two. And that's where I probably would want to attack the Jets, if anything else. But I think in terms of this game, we don't got too much more to talk about, honestly. It's just the Jets need a get bad spot. They're getting a little bit too many points for my liking. So that's why I wouldn't take the points here because they're on the road. And New England's always one of those weird teams that could all of a sudden show up and play all of a sudden. So I'm just not touching it, not expecting anything but a win here for the Jets. But again, I'm not too confident at this point. It's like Rodgers and Adams, they have to get the same page in order for this team to do anything else moving forward. And until we see it, it's like, I don't know. But betting side, I wouldn't touch it. And this is the week they'll probably go scorched earth again and look like, oh yeah, see what we did? Like, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Man,
it's what that is. But moving on to the Falcons and the Bucks, a game that is more intriguing, I think, for all things considered DFS and all things, betting wise. When these two teams played last, it was Thursday Night Football, and Kirk Cousins went over 500 yards passing.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that? Nobody.
At that time, nobody, bro. Nobody.
The game ended in overtime, you know what I'm saying? And 36-30 was the final score. So definitely take that into consideration. Falcons are a -2 favorite, 4-3. Both of these teams vying for NFC South supremacy at the moment in this time of the season. The over-under is 45.5 this time around. The Bucks, obviously, no Mike Evans till after their bye week, which is week 11. So you won't see Mike Evans till potentially week 12. Godwin out for the year with a dislocated ankle. We saw that on Monday, unfortunately, and that was just awful to see. So it's down to, who are we going to start? A lot of this for DFS, there's definitely people are taking their, shots at Jalen McMillan, obviously, because he saw a good amount of targets in the last game. He saw 8 targets, but he only caught 33 balls for 15 yards. Kate Otton, obviously, he's one of the tight ends, obviously, is going to be, participating, but the usage rate should definitely rise, and he should be a little bit more chalk. We got a lot of things that, are here, what I'm saying, with the Falcons and the Bucks, all things considered. So, Johnny, what are your stance on some of these players? Like, where do you stand in terms of where you're using them lineup wise? Like, what you got for us? And Jesse, we'll get to you in one moment, my guy.
Man, like this would have been like a really, really fun game. Obviously, if it wasn't for the injuries on the Bucks side, man, this would have been one of the games we would have been wanting to get to.
I still think it's exciting.
I still think it's good, man, but I just think like this is one of those games, right, where it could have the ability to get out of hand really quick, just because the Falcons are obviously coming off of a loss last week against Seattle, where they probably had let their guard down a little bit, and now you have a Buccaneers team who, in all reality, that offense really goes through Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So not to have those two weapons there, what does that look like for the Bucs? And I think the Falcons absolutely should be able to stand tall today and be able to take this game down for sure. Kate Otten is definitely one of the bigger pieces of chalk today, but one of the more intriguing things for me I think about Kyle Pitts on the Falcons side, and I think about just what happened on Monday night with the Baltimore Ravens and Mark Andrews kind of coming out. So I'm playing Kyle Pitts this week, and I'm playing him with a lot of confidence because I feel like this week should definitely be a week for him. He's played okay the last couple of weeks, but this could be one of those games where we've been waiting on for Kyle Pitts with a pair of touchdowns or something like that right there, 6 grabs, nice yardage participation. Drake London is obviously you're playing him in season long. A little bit pricey on the DFS side of things for me. I think the Falcons receivers now, the price is starting to kind of move up. So I'm not playing a lot of those guys. Like I said, I'm getting more towards Kyle Pitts. If you feel like this game is going to get out of control, Tyler Algier is another person that you can play in one of those flex positions. Again, just to get unique and to get different and to get some points inside of this game. I think Kirk Cousins is in play from the quarterback position if you're looking at stacking things up. There's definitely cheap run backs for the Buccaneers. You got Sterling Shepard as well, which I think, some people kind of forget about. It seems like that guy's been in the league like since I had hair, man, for real. And then Rashad White, man, he came back out of nowhere. I think this is just one of the things we're going to see with this 3-headed backfield. You got Bucky Irvin with his banged up toe. So, so like it's kind of a mess like we expected. And I think, to kind of segue into Jesse's question here, talking about, Mayfield or Rodgers. I don't know how Nick feels about it, but I feel a little bit more comfortable with Aaron Rodgers just because all the pieces are in play. With Baker Mayfield, the game script could suggest for him to have to throw the football for sure. But, what does that look like? And I think after what transpired on Monday night, if this game gets out of hand and they get up by 3 or 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, are you still going to have Baker Mayfield in the game, or are you going to pull him? Which I think this game has that potential to kind of get that way. So those are kind of my segues on that right there. And then the last thing I'll say, too, is Bijan this week. He obviously had a pretty solid week last week, coming in at right around 10% this week. So he's not overly owned. So he could be somebody that could be in play for you at the running back position. Can still give you some elite production in a game that we suspect and expect the Falcons to be able to win. So just figured I'd throw that out there as well.
Okay, makes sense. I would say that I'd probably just start Baker because I think that with Atlanta potentially getting a lead early on in this game, most likely, I envision the Atlanta Falcons getting up in this game, which will force Baker to throw the football more. I just think from a game script perspective, we expect the Jets to win by 7. The way they'll do that is by, implementing that run game, implementing the ground game when it comes to Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, especially if they get up. Rodgers is still a little banged up still. So I don't exactly anticipate Rodgers to really throw it around the yard or if a weird game script turns into them throwing the football. Yeah, but I expect Baker Mayfield to come out and still be really productive. Baker Mayfield's still a top 3 QB overall when it comes to all things considered. I know he lost his 2 best targets, but I think having his college teammate and Sterling Shepard, there'll be some routes where they'll probably be creative in which they'll get him the football. They used him a couple weeks ago in the run game, which was weird. They had 4 carries, 31 yards for Sterling Shepard. I didn't watch the game tape on that game, but I think it was more what did I say? That was probably more just, I think, in terms of and maybe with more end arounds. I didn't watch the game, but in terms of Sterling Shepard or Mayfield, they definitely have that connection. A couple weeks ago, actually in this game, he got a touchdown pass. So, to Sterling Shepard. So there might be a little bit more to this than maybe that we're seeing. But I still like Baker over Rodgers because I expect the Bucs to throw the football a bit more, stay aggressive on offense versus Rodgers, where their pace is still one of the slowest in the NFL. Rodgers is definitely methodical. So that could also be, again, changing of the game in terms of, there's a lot of changes at the line for Rodgers. So it's not going to be as straightforward as Rodgers, just like lighting up the Patriots. I just want to go with Baker because he's just been proving to us constantly over and over again that he's been one of the top quarterbacks so far in fantasy up until week 8 so far. Okay, so
you waiting for me to tell you that I don't agree with that?
No. I was waiting for you.
Okay, I was gonna say.
So you got the Falcons or the Bucs?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the Falcons in this one right here. I just think this is I think this is a get right spot, like all the way across the board for the Falcons this week. Without going into like great detail, I think we all know why. So yeah, give me the Falcons and the points. And I think
I'm in agreement because the Bucs give up third most pass yards. To QB. So stick to the prop shop because that's probably somewhere in there.
Segue.
But in terms of I do like the Falcons on the road, taking care of business. I think they are the more complete team at the moment too. When it comes to top to bottom, more complete. Even minus the injuries, I still felt the Falcons were a little bit better of a team. So I think I'll take the Falcons. I'll take the discount in terms of the line because that line, I feel like that should be like more like 4.5 favored for the Falcons. Going into a crap game. Got the Titans going on the road to Detroit. Titans are getting 12.5 on some books. Titans are 1-5 in the year, going into Detroit 5-1. Over under is 44.5. I gotta look at the team total for Detroit because that over under will be a little interesting. Like I said before, like how we got there last week with Buffalo.
Team total for Detroit is over 28. Yeah,
I knew it. Yeah, I was right off the bat. I was thinking 28.
Yeah.
But again, last week I said we're talking about the Titans and the Bills, and I was like, the only way the Titans will get and Bills will get over is the Titans are going to have to at least score a touchdown or two, and I think there's it's possible. And I think it's again possible here again for the Titans. I know they're getting a ton of points. I know Detroit's really, really great, all things considered, but man, like the Titans defense is a little bit more of the stingier ones in the NFL. It's one of those Titans defenses that like they just come out and they just play ball defensively, and they can slow down some of your offenses in terms of schematics. So I do like somehow, some way the Titans plus 12.5 if I was taking a point spread here, because that's too many points in the NFL. The Titans aren't exactly like the Panthers where it's like they are really terrible. It's just again they have no QB. Mason Rudolph continually starting today. Will Levis because he was also questionable. I don't think that was officially announced yet in terms of who was starting at QB. But in terms of that goes, I'm just looking at if that news came out. I remember the last time that came out, it was I know Spears is definitely out for this week. I know QB wise, I know Will Levis was questionable. But either way, Detroit definitely should take.
Detroit's relatively healthy, man. Like honestly, they're healthy. Ladarius Sneed is out. Kenneth
not all
Murray,
the way healthy, but
yeah. I mean, no, not all the way. But as far as like on the injury report, like we know who's playing for them versus the Titans, who I think there's still a lot more questions about who's in and who's out for sure. But Ladarius Sneed is definitely out, which that's definitely going to be a problem. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a problem.
It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah,
I'll take the over here because I think Detroit can almost get there by themselves. And like I said before, I think all it takes is a Pollard touchdown or a broken play to Ridley down the field for the Titans to make this over make even look better for everybody taking it. So I take the over, take the Lions, and I take the points for the Titans if we're making a little small single game GPP.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of Detroit side, like who doesn't love golf? Like, because golf has been looking like incredible lately in terms of an efficiency perspective. Like, he's been looking like one of the top QBs in the league. Again, it's like, he hasn't thrown a pick in the last 3 weeks. Maybe I'm cursing him, maybe not.
We have been known to do that on show.
It's true. But I think Detroit, they still got to be on their toes for this game because, again, it's like, they're coming off the high of being Minnesota, but it's also like, it could be just one of those games where it starts out slow for them because of that, and they're kind of like not looking at their opponent, like they might get caught off guard a little bit. So, but I expect them to still win this game. I think Detroit is, again, one of those teams where they've proven it. So it's like even if they start out slow, they have the offense to continue to come back. DFS side of things, I mean, I kind of like Amon-Ra again, 8,400. But in terms of a cheaper play, like, you could play Khalif Raymond, you could play obviously Laporta, who everybody's kind of freaking out about now, which is somewhat understandable. Laporta's 4,800. Raymond is, I think he was 3,800 last time I checked. 34, actually. 3,400, Khalif Raymond. There was talk about Allen Robinson. Good Lord, yo. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what? No way.
Yes, sir.
We haven't heard anything about that since. I expect probably, again, Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm saying 7,400. Like, he had a coming out party last week.
Told you about that.
But this is one of those games where it scripts up all the way for David Montgomery, though. 6,400. I know he overall was like, the knee injury was a somewhat concern, but they say it was just he suffered a bad bruise. So in terms of that, I do like Montgomery at 6,400 just because the game script, based on how Vegas sees everything, it's like scraping up to be that Montgomery game where it's like a 2-touchdown performance and 80 yards on the ground. Like, it's just one of those type of games. But what do you say, Johnny, in terms of this game, in terms of anything considered DFS or seasonal?
Oh, yeah, DFS, I mentioned Sam Laporta, so I will just go ahead and let everybody know that the Titans have not allowed a touchdown to a tight end, and they're giving up the second fewest receptions to that position. So I will absolutely be staying away from Sam Laporta in that respect as far as like from a DFS side. Obviously, if you haven't been season long, unless you have a better option, you got to play him for sure. Another player that's interested in me for the Titans is Tyler Boyd. Now with DeAndre Hopkins out the door. We got a lot of cheap plays, Cedric Tillman, Sterling Shepard that we talked about. So there's definitely some cheaper options. So Tyler Boyd also falls into that category for me as well. And then, like you said, man, like Jared Goff's just been playing lights out, here this season. So I suspect that to continue to keep going. The Lions, man, like they'll give it up to you in the passing game, but it's just you're not going to be able to score. So to your point, like, yeah, man, like, a couple of plays, 1 or 2 touchdowns here, man. And I think, like, to your point, Nick, like this over can hit absolutely. So with those 1 or 2 touchdowns, if that over hits, then that, in my opinion, like, I think the Titans now at plus 12, that has a potential to be okay. I'm not messing with it. I think I'm staying away from that. And then, like you mentioned, like it does feel like it's one of those Montgomery games, but I think I think we're starting to see, like we seen it last week with Jahmyr Gibbs. And I wouldn't be shocked again if Jahmyr Gibbs had another big day again this week. I think like we're getting to that point in time. Like we're at that point in time, right, where we're over halfway through the season. Defenses are what do we got? I can't hear you.
Going on here.
All right, there you go.
All right, perfect. Ian Rappaport says DeAndre Hopkins is going to play a significant amount of snaps for week 8.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. I got it. Like I got him in my DFS lineups, man.
I'm playing against you this week in one of my leagues, so
yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, you just sitting here listening to me talk about DeAndre Hopkins, and yeah, of course. But no, man. Like I said, like I do think. Obviously the Lions, they have their own set of things that they're dealing with, obviously without Aiden Hutchinson, without J-Mo this week. I do like Tim Patrick a little bit, not enough to play him in any of my DFS lineups, but in GPPs, obviously you can work him and Khalif Raymond in there. But this absolutely, I think, for Jared Goff, this could be one of those just standard day in the parks, 249, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, kind of status quo. I said touchdowns from, Jameer, touchdowns from Montgomery. Nobody to actually break the slate, but just enough. They just overpower the Titans in a game like this. Is tanking for Shador. Now gets ready to start for the Titans.
You might wanna run to your waiver wires for this one.
Oh, here we go. What you got?
Let me check to see if he's available in some of my leagues first.
No, hell.
Palacero reports that T. Higgins is out week 8.
Figured that was coming.
Figured that was coming too.
Yeah, figured that was coming.
Yoshivas.
Yoshi's Island.
I just don't know if I'm starting him in some of my leagues, but something you could definitely consider this week. You're in a pinch, but yeah, we had no more to talk about in this game.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel like this week, like the games are either like just like a slam, a slam dunk, or all right, man, like this is gonna be a good game. Like,
you called that. You definitely called that. You definitely called that, bro. It's definitely like it's either yeah or just no.
No.
Because there's some of these teams that are just getting mismatched, but that's what it is. We got the Cardinals taking on the Dolphins. Cardinals getting 4 on the road into Miami. Cardinals 3-4, Dolphins 2-4. Over 45.5. This game to me screams shootout. This game screams shootout to me. I know the Dolphins have been better defensively, particularly against quarterbacks who they don't allow quarterbacks to really get going against them. But this in terms of all things considered, when it comes to the Cardinals, like they pulled off a nice little victory late in their pocket at home against the Chargers. I think that they could come into this game a little bit more fired up too. Miami obviously getting Tua back is huge. You got Tyreek Hill talking about better start meeting leagues this week. Like, like there's a lot going on here to break down. I think this is one of those games in DFS that we have to definitely put our eyes on to potentially having a shootout type of performance. Tyreek Hill is going to be the lowest. Probably you'll see him with Tua in the lineup. So 7K on DK, makes a ton of sense for me. Dare I say Marvin Harrison Jr. can have a game today, 6,800. But he'll have Jalen Ramsey today. I might want to target McBride, even though 5,500 a little bit steeper, but I think he's one of the elite tight ends we see in the year. You got your boy James Conner here, 6,500. But my guy Achane, he's 6,200. That's a steal. I think with Tua coming back, we're hoping for me that that we actually have a very, very potent Miami offense like we had in the last couple of years with Tua coming back. But I'm definitely taking the over in this game. But what do you say in terms of the rest of everything in terms of Cardinals side, Dolphins side, DFS side, season-long lineups? What you got?
Tyreek's our poster boy for the show today.
I know.
And I love Tyreek. I've always been a fan of him on the field for a long time, man. This is just, you said this scream shootout, and it's very funny because as I'm looking at the ownership between Achane, Waddle, Hill, and Tua, you're looking at almost 65% ownership between all those players. So what that tells me is that tells me you either pick one or you stay away from all of them, man, because when the ownership is that heavy all the way across the board, it's just screaming that this is going to blow up. I think you're spot on with Waddle, man, although that 5.4 K on DraftKings makes it very difficult to walk away. Because you're like, man, it makes it very difficult to walk away because you're like, if this guy gets 88 in a touch, we good. You know what I mean? We good. And again, Tyreek, this is the cheapest you're going to see him for sure, but everybody's going to be there. Your boy, Devon Achane, same thing, man. Price is cheap. So this is I don't know, man. I think I've got one lineup with Tyreek Hill, and I did have to play Achane in a couple. But man, it makes me it makes me uneasy when the field is like right there because you're not getting any type of advantage for it, man. You know what I mean? It truly is a chalk play. So either you're going to need that piece to get to where you need to be at, or either B, you don't have them, you skyrocket to the moon, and you're in a good position, man. And you're right, dude. It is weird that the Dolphins actually, like, you would think that like the Dolphins would actually give up points to quarterbacks, which is weird that they actually don't. And I got to get my Kyler Murray joke in. He's probably going to tank anyway because Call of Duty just came out. So I know it's corny. It's dad joke.
I've been saying all week.
Yeah, like which is funny. I seen this funny meme, and it was Jordan. You probably already seen it. It was Jordan in the Wizards uniform, Patrick Ewing in the Magic uniform, Olajuwon in the Raptors uniform, and it was like playing Call of Duty in your 40s. Yeah. So I told my brother he better not let me down getting out there and getting smoked by these little kids online. But I'm taking the over in this game though for sure. And I think another thing, man, like you always got to be mindful of, man, the South Beach flu. You know what I mean? You got to be mindful of that.
Beach flu, he said.
Yeah, the South Beach flu. The South Beach flu. But yeah, man, I definitely I like the over in this game. And then maybe, man, like who knows? Like another element to this game, I think, you know, we got to take into consideration, right? Is Tua's been out for a few weeks. So like, you know, maybe it just doesn't start to click for him initially. However, the Cardinals defense is a very giving defense, one would say. So give me the over in this game, man.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, like it just makes too much sense here in terms of like all things considered between these two teams. Like, I think the contrarian move is Kyler.
Yeah.
If we're talking about ownership going all to the Dolphins, like it's one of those classic spots where Kyler Murray 6,400. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely a price tag that's lower than the last. It's cheapest price all season for a guy that's going to be a dual threat quarterback. And Murray, we already know he's either going to be one of those guys that goes Jack, you know, he's Jack on high. He's going to be great for you, or just, you know, he's going to flame out on you. So it's just one of those things where, I mean, I'm okay with taking him. Some of my DFS lineups could get different contrarian because of the run game that he does. But obviously, Caleb Williams also comes to mind later on, 6K as well. So it's like, you know, a little bit hard, a little bit more to come by when it comes to that. But on to the next game, we got the Eagles getting 2.5 on the road, going to face Cincinnati. Eagles are 4-2, Bengals 3-4. Look, your guy called it last week. Your guy called it. The Eagles don't go out and beat the Giants with more than 10 points. Like, yeah, don't call this team a Super Bowl contender. So they heard me. Now they're getting 2.5 on the road going to Cincinnati, which now we know has no Higgins. I was already gonna take the Eagles anyway.
Yep.
Now without no Higgins, I'm definitely taking the Eagles. Taking the money line for the Eagles. Forget the 2.5. I'm just gonna take the money line. I still expect this game to go over 47.5. Because both of these defenses still leak passing yards. In terms of, the Eagles are 6th most when it comes to passing yards in the league. The Bengals are the 8th. So yeah, it's like this is like match made in heaven for offensive scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, I like the over, I like the Eagles here because the Eagles, I feel like the Bengals are a team that last year, it was like, we're going off of still from last year where it's like this team was supposed to be good or whatever and stuff like that and all that. And again, no Higgins now. So I just think that the Eagles should get this one. I mean, similar spot several weeks ago with the Bengals and the Chiefs. Like, I think the Chiefs, they weren't an underdog. But it was still like the Bengals were getting a few points on the road. I still like the Eagles here in this spot because of, again, I think the weapons are starting to come together. I think Devontae Smith's going to have a decent game this week versus last week because you let everybody fuck down.
Oh, my God.
Everybody fucking down. Everybody in their mama let down. But I know. Golly, man. It was bad. But in terms of this game alone,
I love it because of him.
What do you like, Dottie?
I like AJ Brown, man, in this game. For sure.
Oh, you do, huh?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I like.
Yeah.
I like AJ Brown. I like AJ Brown. Bengals are actually one of the worst teams in the NFL. as far as points go, giving up points to receivers on the outside. So I do like him this week. And I think, like, to your point, man, just about this game, like, this is like the fake Gucci and the fake Prada teams right here at the NFL. Like, they're fakes. Like, they look really good.
Whoa,
And you have to get
whoa.
wait. You have to get in.
I don't think the Eagles fall there yet. No, I don't fall there yet.
Anyways, you got to get in there real close. Take a look and to make sure. Yeah, all right. Okay. Yeah, no, I see it right there. Yeah. And you're right. Like, I think, like, people still are going off of what happened last year. And when I say fakes, right, the Bengals are frauds. The Eagles, I'm not necessarily saying they're a fraud per se, but I just don't think they're as good as what we all think they should be and what it is in our minds, right? I think there's definitely a lot of other teams that I would put in comparison to them and say, like, hey, like, how do these teams actually stack up overall, right? And I can tell you, even though they lost last week, like, the Falcons and the Eagles, like, you could make an argument that both teams are very similar in what it is that they have offensively and defensively. So the Eagles, in my opinion, they don't stand out. They don't stand out at this point. But anyways, I digressed. AJ Brown is the play for me in this game. And like I've been talking about all show, right? Like, if you want to get to some of the higher priced players, if you want to get to a Jamar Chase, you want to get to an AJ Brown, a Saquon Barkley, you're going to have some cheaper pieces, which we've been talking about, the Sterling Shepherds, the Tillmans, Tyler Boyd. Like, we've been talking about all these players, Jameis Winston. Like, if you wanted to go there, though, you're going to have to play those players to get to these players here this week. And I'm curious to see how things go with Jamar Chase in this game without T. Higgins, because earlier on in the season when he didn't have T. Higgins, it seemed like he was struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when T. Higgins started playing, Jamar Chase started playing. So I'm kind of curious to see. Yeah, so I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this is going to shake out against an Eagles defense that we've talked about that has been very friendly on the back end as far as giving up plays here. And we talked about it for the last 3 weeks, man. The Bengals are playing for their lives in the AFC North. They're playing for their lives with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens being the upper echelon of the AFC North, and just being in the AFC in general with the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like, they're literally playing for their playoff lives. I'm saying all that to say the Eagles at 2.5, definitely give me that. And I would definitely say give me the over in this game as well. I think there's definitely going to be points here put up in this game, because I don't think these two teams are good enough defensively to make it so either one of these teams can score. I think this is one of these games where we see like a higher over, star caliber players. I think that's gonna hit. But if there's a guy that I love in this game, particularly, it's 100% AJ Brown.
Yeah, of course. AJ Brown's been the alpha, you know what I'm saying? And that's just where, this Eagles offense, it feels like a funnel is starting to happen, where it's like with the Eagles, they're going to take some deep shots down to AJ Brown. They're going to look to get Barkley involved, both ground game and receiving game. And then Devontae Smith's going to be able to, take apart when it comes to short and intermediate routes. Like, like they'll find him on play action play sometimes. So I feel like there's definitely like a pecking order now starting to develop. To where now it's like, all right, I think this week, I just think AJ Brown's going to continue doing what he has been doing in terms of, what he's been, he's just been looking like
he's been the number one. He's been like what we expected him. He's been the number one wide receiver. He's been a first round wide receiver, which is what most fantasy people thought. Like, when the season started, was like, hey man, like there was even a point.
There was honestly some people that doubted him though too, though.
No,
they were like, he's still going to the end of the first round. Like, some people were definitely.
That's baby T.O. right there. That's the comp in my mind that makes me think of him.
I said some people. I didn't say all.
I know. It just still blows my mind, man. Because
it's still weird.
But like, even for me, right? Like, I'll be like, I'll call like
Mason
everything.
Rudolph starting. Mason Rudolph starting.
Figure. I like one thing, man. It's like, I even at the beginning of the year and like during the off season, like I would have even, and I was taking AJ Brown over Justin Jefferson. That's how much like I thought of AJ Brown. And didn't think that this situation with Justin Jefferson would play out, but Justin Jefferson is obviously QB proof, for sure. But like I still like even still like I'm still okay like making that call, taking AJ Brown over Justin Jefferson. So I have him in high regards, man. Always have.
Yeah, and that's fair to say. I mean, look, AJ Brown's always been like since that wild trade they made for him to be an Eagle. I was like, yo, what? How did
Baby
this happen?
T.O., man. Baby T.O. Baby T.O.
I mean, way better version of Terrell Owens in terms of character.
Agreed.
Got him.
Agreed.
Okay. Next game. Packers and the Jaguars. Ooh. Packers getting 3.5 on the road, going to Jacksonville. 49.5 the over under. Pretty big sick line there in terms of what we see in terms of over unders. I think that's the highest on the slate. Am I wrong?
It probably is, man. It's got to be like wait.
Yeah, so 49.
Yeah, it's got yeah.
I was like, yo, wow, okay. Has to be the biggest, I think. But in terms of the slate, like I said, Packers getting 3.5. Jordan Love looking like the kingmakers of QBs right now. Jordan Love looking pretty good. Passing touchdowns, back-to-back games, at least 3 or more. Oh wow, okay. A couple injury notes. Tyreek Hill definitely playing today. That was pretty much a given.
Yeah.
ETN inactive with the hamstring. So anyone that has Bigsby, firing him up. Let's see. Alan Lazard out with a chest injury this week. For the Jets.
Tweaking.
And then Zay Flowers active for week 8 with the ankle. There was some talk about he might not go, may go, whatever. And then Bucky Irving active this week with a toe injury. So that muddles things for the Buccaneers players, including me, because I just traded for Rashad White, unfortunately. But anyhow, Packers and Jags, I think this is pretty straightforward. I think it's in terms of just how Jordan Love's been playing, in terms of this Packers offense, like we expect things to continue to roll. The only thing that concerns me is the line, because Vegas only has the Packers as a -3.5 favorite. I know the Jaguars looked pretty good against the Patriots last week. But kind of concerning that Packers only getting 3.5 on the road. So I mean, that's the only thing looks a little weird. The over-under is one of those situations that could definitely hit, but it's also like, can the Jaguars consistently put up those points? Is another story, another question to ask as well. But Johnny, what do you say in terms of these teams, in terms of players? Obviously, for me, I like Ingram in terms of both betting and DFS side of things this week, because 5,000, I mean, for DK, it's one of those points where it's like you're paying up, but not so much paying up, because Ingram's one of those tight ends that should find a heck of targets this week and a lot of usage. But in terms of anything else, all things considered, what do you like?
I rock with my guy, man, Jordan Love. Man.
Yep. Is there a Romeo Dobbs week this week?
I'm playing him, but actually I'm going with Tucker Kraft. I'm playing a lot of him too. So Kyle Pitts and Tucker Kraft, those are my 2 tight ends. I think I ran a double stack in one of my single entries with Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, and Romeo Dobbs. So like I got that going, and like, yo, man, like been saying it all year long, man. I think everybody knows the deal. Is this the week Doug Peterson gets fired? I keep it consistent. From George Pickens to KOC to Doug Peterson to Jordan Love, I keep it consistent. So this might be the week because I have a feeling that the Packers are going to absolutely beat the Jacksonville Jaguars like a drum today. And one of the things about the Green Bay Packers, and we see it, is they are going to throw the football. They're going to throw it, and they're going to throw it a lot. So I think for me, I like this game, man. I like my boys. I say my boys. I'm not a Packers fan, but like this year, like I've been heavily invested in them, and just in terms of from a DFS and a betting side of things, I said it all year long. I know one of the little NFL commercials was like, "Oh, Jordan Love for MVP." well, I guess I'm the commercial. Because I still think like he's been playing as one of those guys, right? Like I think like, we just talked about the Eagles. Like I would absolutely take, the Packers over the Eagles. I think they're a better team. I think the Eagles have better skill players, but I think just from a pure quarterback perspective, Jordan Love is definitely it. Second year playing, and like instead of teams catching up to him, he's actually passing defenses now. No pun intended, for the Packers. So man, like it's just really cool just to see like what they've got going on. But that's just, again, man, that's a long-winded way of me saying, give me the Packers and the points. And I'll even mess with the over on this as well, because I think like the Packers could very easily score 30 plus points today. And I think if that's the case, then the Jaguars probably get one or two gimmies. To your point, I do like Evan Ingram. I think he's in play on the DFS side of things for sure. And then just like from an ownership side of things, like obviously you're not getting a lot of Packer wide receivers with a lot of ownership because they spread it around so much. So I like that. Jaden Reed, he's the highest owned receiver in this game at almost 10%. Brian Thomas Jr., another player that I do believe is in play for sure today. I'll look for him probably to get behind the defense once or twice today. So this should be a fun game, man, for sure. No weather or anything like that right there going on in Jacksonville. So, a bad team in the Jacksonville Jaguars, a good offense, a great quarterback, a great play caller in Matt LaFleur. Seems like a perfect recipe for a lot of fantasy points this week.
Yeah, I mean, perfectly said. Beautifully said. Only thing I'll say is that, I mean, Jaguars got to throw. So that's where it's like, have to throw to keep in this game. And I think 3.5 is, it's still, like, definitely is too low. But in terms of how the Packers, like, again, they're on the road and whatnot. I just think they definitely should be favored by more points. Going to a game that is not exactly something that it should be too much emphasis on. The Saints 2-5 going on a road getting 7 against the Chargers, who are 3-3, coming off an ugly loss against the Cardinals. Over under 41.5. I think it's one of those games that could weirdly go over just because the Saints and Spencer Rattler, like, we don't know what to exactly expect. Spencer Rattler's been turning over the ball like, it's nobody's business. And with Chargers coming in after a bad loss, like, they're going to want to be, they're really hungry to not only get a win, but to also just smack somebody around. Taking the Chargers, I'm just not sure if I'm taking the points. Because I do think the Chargers is one of those, no, you can talk me into the points. I might not take it, but you could probably talk me into it. You can probably talk me more into over under, because I think that, I think the Saints can at least get some points on the board. To where the Chargers can just do enough to get probably past their team total. I think their team total, if I were to guess off the top of my head, is going to be 24. But I'll double check that.
Yep.
While Johnny gives us his breakdown.
Yep, Chargers are 24. You spot on. Like
what can I say?
Watch them cook. Yeah, man. Like I think, this is definitely one thing I am interested to see here. Chris Olave is playing today. Yep. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. Just trying to get him the ball from a DFS perspective and even from a season-long perspective. I think he's somebody that's kind of been, you've been riding the wave, and if your team is doing well and they have Olave, then that's really good because you probably still haven't seen the best of him, but you've been there for the worst of it. So I think they're still like, like, I mean, and then obviously got Alvin Kamara, right? Which, the last time these guys played on Thursday night, man, they look like fucking hot shit. Really, is really what they look like. And then I think the Chargers, man, like coming off of a weird loss to the Cardinals, playing against a rookie quarterback at home. I definitely am taking the Chargers for sure. The only I got burned on the under the last time the Saints played, man, on that garbage interception for a touchdown at the end of the game. Literally, dude. I'm like, yeah, baby. I'm like, that's right. We get ready to cash, get ready to be a nice one.
Nope.
No. So I'm staying away from this one right here. Although this one has gotten underwritten all over it, just from the aspect of the Saints struggling to move the ball, the Chargers wanting to run the ball, what the Saints gave up last week in the run game to Javonte Williams, who came back from the dead. I just think this is a good right spot for the Chargers overall. J.K. Dobbins heavily owned this week, man. One of the top 3 to 4 owned running backs in DFS, which I could definitely understand why. I just always get a little bit shaky when the ownership is that high, but obviously you're going to have to play one of those guys, but it makes sense why he's so heavily owned. So yeah, and then I think obviously, someone could be talked into playing Ladd McConkey. You could be talked into playing him for sure. Taysom Hill was back. If you're looking at anytime garbage touchdowns, he's back.
Joe.
He's back right in time. Yeah, right in time for Halloween. So yeah, long-winded way of saying under Chargers. Give it to me.
16.5 rush yards for Taysom Hill for the books. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. I have no idea, man. I have no idea. Probably, potentially any type touchdown, no, because I'm sure the odds are crazy for that right now. Let's see. Anytime plus 340 on FanDuel. First touchdown, 1,700. Like, ooh, boy. Yeah, I know. Put a little dollar on that, huh?
look, little chain. Look, got some chain.
Some money. I like to call it. Put some lunch money on that.
That's it. Why not?
$5 bill or something. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in terms of this game, I think the Chargers should take this one. I just think that there's a sneaky line potentially hit the over. I know they both want to. I know the Chargers want to really run the ball and control clock, but that could still lead to scoring a ton of points because again.
Did you say a ton?
Yeah, you could still score a ton of points. But obviously, looking at
you said Chargers and Saints and a ton of points.
Potentially, yeah. So 42 is not as strenuous to hit versus some other lines, honestly. Especially if we think the Saints are going to continue to throw the football. So we'll see.
The wrong team, probably. Yeah,
it's not a spot I'm like telling people to put all their chips on. I'm just you got some money on it. Why not?
This feels dirty. That's all.
I get it. Going to a game that's going to be a little bit more intriguing. So Bills, Seahawks. Bills coming in 5-2. They have a 3-point favorite. Going to Seattle 4-3. Over is 45.5. We have an extra 5, so we'll get that edited. But in terms of this game, what do you say?
I like this game, man. I like this game. I like these teams, and I'll tell you why. Very simply put, we know that the Seattle Seahawks are going to throw the ball, and very simply put, we know where the ball is going to be going for the Buffalo Bills. Actually, one of the kids at the birthday party yesterday was like, my buddy said, he's like, my daughter calls them the Buffaloes, even though she knows it's the Buffalo Bills, but like the logo on the helmet with the Buffaloes. Yeah. I was like, that's wild. Yeah, but like, I mean, I just think right, we know where everything's going, right? With the Bills, it is Josh Allen, James Cook, and now Amari Cooper, who is, in my opinion, super cheap for being a number 1 wide receiver. For Josh Allen, going against the defense that all year long has been vulnerable in the pass game. So I do like that. I do have a Josh Allen, Amari Cooper stack. The Seattle Seahawks, man, those players, Tyler Lockett at 5,600. I like that. I think that's a pretty cheap price for him. If you've had JS in, this is the moment you've been waiting on all year long, right? Is to not have DK Metcalf. And to see what this looks like, right? Like some people have been holding on to him as a wide receiver 4, 3, whatever the case may be. This is the moment for that. And then also too, man, is this the time where you go back to the well with Geno Smith? Geno Smith was almost 20% owned last week. He was the chalk of the slate and he busted. So like now is this the time to go back to him? And then last but not least, you got Ken Walker, who has been, when he's been on the field this year, you can make a case other than Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. You could make a case that he's been one of the top 3 fantasy running backs this year. And going against the Buffalo Bills team that, depending on who they've played, they've looked like world beaters. They've beaten up on bad teams, but they've struggled against good teams. And Seattle is somewhere in between both of those. So I think it's very interesting, or will be very interesting, to see how it shakes up this week. But Ken Walker in the passing game has been a pleasant surprise already for people this year. So I am playing some Ken Walker. But if I had to choose a game that like I am like very, very like over and like want to like have multiple pieces of, this would be the game right here, just because I think both of these offenses can score for one. Two, like we know where the ball's going. Three, we have some cheap plays other than Josh Allen. And four, man, it gives you that late hammer in the DFS slate where it's like, all right, everybody else has played. This is what it is. And if you already played quarterback, you can't get to Josh Allen. You can make some other moves to get other places. But I love this game right here. This is for DFS. This is my game of the week right here.
This is going to sound very gross to say.
Let it fly.
It's going to be very gross to say. Is this a Jake Bobo game today? Or is it a Noah Fant game today? Because I don't know. Because look,
why would you rain on my parade like that? Why would you do that?
I'm not trying to rain on it.
We were getting along so well.
I know. I'm not trying to rain. I'm just bringing up a question. Because I'm not sure. It's more related to JSN.
Yeah,
he's 6,100. Yo, how is he $100 more than Cooper?
Well, I couldn't tell you.
Like, I know no Metcalf potentially is doubtful.
Yeah.
But do we really trust that he's going to get the bulk of the usage here in the receiving game today? I don't know. Like, it's
whenever
possible.
you think that happens, it's always Tyler Lockett.
I'm hoping that's the case, guy. I have to start GSN a couple leagues this week. I'm just saying that Noah Fant 3,700. It's like, back-to-back games, at least double digits. You know what I'm saying? Like, where it's like he hasn't scored that touchdown yet, and I think that might happen this week. So that's a pivot spot. So I'm just thinking about pivots on how to go. Cooper should be a lock because based on what he did last week in terms of limited usage and stuff, like now he's going to get a little bit more of that. But I love this game in terms of what you just talked about DFS wise. Like this is the game where like you could take a couple pieces of this game, especially for the later game. Like Josh Allen 7,800, still a little cheap in my opinion. He's probably 8,300. But in terms of the ceiling game, we haven't seen the ceiling game for Josh Allen yet.
Nope.
This could be the week we see so. So it might be one of those games where I'm like, all right, I might just take Josh Allen, Cooper, stack later on, and then fill out the rest of my roster. Because I think that's where, again, like Josh Allen proved us time and time again that he could run the football, obviously. He's just dual threat. So in terms of this game, definitely like the Bills. It's tough, man. I don't want to say that. I retract my statement, damn it.
Hey man, I hear you. Listen, all right, man. Listen, trust me.
It
grosses me out every week when I have to say Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, it grosses me out.
Is there any way Seattle could stay in this game here? Anyway, is there any way to beat them?
Yeah, there is a way. A couple Josh Allen turnovers, which I think is a real thing. That absolutely could happen. So yeah, like I don't think it's like a foregone conclusion that the Buffalo Bills are going to run away with this game, especially playing in Seattle. Because these are two of the tougher places to play, whether you look at Seattle or Buffalo, either way, right? But I do think, right, like this also could be a game to what you just mentioned. You have two quarterbacks who do have a history of turning over the football. So like for that 45 and this being a game of fantasy pleasure and everything else. It could very well not be. I just think I'm looking at it optimistically. I think these are two teams right here that that offensively, like you know what's up with them. Like you know what's up and you know where the ball is going. So I definitely would love a game stack of this one here, man.
That makes sense. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
For real. So I think DFS wise, what's the ownership looking like for
Ken Walker? Ken Walker is 4%.
Yeah, that makes
Sign
sense.
me up.
No one wants to pay 7,800 for Walker. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But it's also like,
and then Geno Smith is at 4%, and Josh Allen is at 1.17%. So that's that's why, that's why,
that changes things now for me. That changes things. You tell me Geno Smith's gonna be under 5%. That changes things for me a little bit because from a volume perspective wise, I know it hasn't looked great the last couple of weeks, but it's like the last time, again, being at San Francisco, he always struggles always struggles against San Francisco. And then last week against Atlanta, they did enough to, win, but it wasn't from Geno's arm. You know what I'm saying? So
I think it's plays here and there, man, crazy shit.
So I mean, I kind of like that now because Geno, especially even if it's a Geno Cooper's that game stack, like mini stack, that's still a good way to go in this game because there's going to be a ton of points. And then Josh Allen, I know he's going to be more like, he's technically, $1,900 more. But in terms of how this game goes, like Geno Smith firing the football, especially if you think Buffalo Bills are going to be especially if you think the Bills are going to be a favorite on the road. Still, Seattle's still a tough place to play. So
it is. It is.
So that's where it comes in handy too. But I don't know, man. I think an interesting way to get at this game.
Yeah, nobody being owned in this game. I think Tyler Lockett is actually the highest owned player, almost 10%, man. Excuse me, 7%. He's the highest owned player in this game, man. Like that's wild. And that's wild to me, man. So like that's definitely wild. That's like it's like playing in a single game entry, man. Like, bro, like that's how you win, right? like this is the game you win on, right here. This is a game you can win on, man. So I'm all in, dude.
Definitely. I definitely like the over in this game. I'll take that for sure. We seen the over with a couple weeks ago with Seattle and the Giants, with Seattle at home, like hit the over. So I think this over could easily hit for 45.5. The only way I see this not hitting the over is that the Seahawks really just come out really flat. And they're just not as consistent throwing the football without Metcalf. So that's definitely a realm of possibilities, but I definitely just see the over definitely hitting. On to a crap game really quickly. Carolina Panthers getting 11.5 on the road, going to Denver. Panthers are 1-6 in the season. Broncos 4-3. Over under is 40.5. 4:25 start time. Yeah, not too much I really want to talk about really here. The Denver side, Denver's looked like a team that's just been doing well. They've gotten some games in which they've been favorable in terms of just winning. And it's not surprising because I took I'm about to cash out this nice over-under for win totals on the season for Denver. It was too low at 4.5 to start the season. Because everybody thought this team was just really awful. Okay. And I didn't think that because Sean Payton was a coach that, he's not going to always, Sean Payton's a good coach. He wasn't always going to wow you.
Say it one more time.
Sean Payton's a good coach.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Sean Payton's a good coach. Because he does things that, I think that there's some people that talked about him being a flame out and stuff. And this situation could have gone either way in terms of how Sean Payton has looked, because last year with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson thing, it was all weird. So what would it look like if he actually got a guy that he liked in Bo Nix? So Bo Nix has actually looked pretty good in terms of like just running the football as a quarterback. Like he looked like, what the heck? That's crazy. I didn't expect all of this, honestly, for Bo Nix, but in terms of the running game, I think Denver's offense has still looked spotty. It still looks like one of those situations where there's constantly guys coming in, constantly coming out. It's like, so there's based on formations, of course, but it's also like, one moment you get freaking, Cortland Sutton, but then the next moment you get, unfortunately, I just learned this the other day. Josh Reynolds actually got shot the other day, last week or whatever. I was like, damn.
Little Jordan Humphrey.
Good thing minor injuries. And little Jordan Humphrey, Adam
Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin now, which is something where I think we can. Audrey Estimate. So it's all crazy. Just not touching this game. The only thing I probably would take is obviously Javonte Williams, because Carolina Panthers are dreadful against the run. Javonte Williams only $6K, so that's pretty cheap versus some other guys in his range that have potential problems. What do you say in terms of this game in its entirety?
Line me up with some defenses. Give Javonte Williams.
So Denver Javonte Williams stack. All right.
Yeah, man. Because one of the other things we didn't even highlight is that the prodigal son is making his return this week. Bryce Young. So yeah. So
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Keep going, Johnny.
Yeah. So so give me the Broncos. Give me the Broncos defense. And I would, and you know what, man, and I would even go as crazy as to say this too, man. This is one of the lower over unders like on the DFS slate. If you even landed on the Carolina Panthers defense in a crazy wild world, could Bo Nix throw Could he throw a couple picks to get returned to the house? Absolutely, man. So like, this is one of those games where like, give me the defenses. Like it
not
can
your
happen.
not from your statement, but just this game entirely.
Oh yeah, it's gross. It's gross. We probably already spent too much time on it already.
We did.
Yeah. And then I got obviously, you got Chuba Hubbard, but I think everything
Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, and it's sad too, man.
Oh, you didn't do it. Chuba Hubbard.
And Jatavion Sanders, man. That was the guy, man, I was really feeling, dude. I was like, oh, man. I was like, okay, it's getting ready to happen, man. And now, now we're back at square one. So, give me the Broncos. Give me the Broncos on the money line, and I will touch nothing else of this game.
Okay. Bears. Woo! Basically a pick 'em game going into FedEx Field. Bears 4-2 coming off the bye. Commanders 5-2 on the home turf. 45.5 is the over-under. We don't know if there was a talk late last night about Jaden Daniels actually playing this game. So that's where we're trying to get some more information on that. I think Scheffler came out and said that
it was looking like he was gonna play.
Yeah, trending towards playing. So if that's the case, then this game I expect them to have more of a better over-under. In terms of how this game will go. I just think the Commanders are going to probably win this game. I like the Bears. I think their defense is solid. If Jaden Daniels playing, though, I'm taking Commanders. If he's not, though, Mariota looked really good against a putrid, putrid Carolina Panthers.
Don't do it.
Don't do what?
I was about to say. Thought you were getting ready to do it. If Mariota plays, you still taking the Commanders. I was about to say, don't do it. Don't do it.
No, probably not. I probably wouldn't then. So that's where I think that this is definitely a nice pick'em game of the week. So I don't know. I think all things considered, DFS wise, there's a couple of pieces you can go to in this game because this is definitely one of those games as well where it's a sneaky over/under game where it's 45. It's like right in the middle of everything, but this game could easily shoot out. Especially if Jaden Daniels plays. But what do you say, Johnny? I know DJ Moore is 6,600.
Yeah,
I know McLaurin 6,900. That might be a little bit too much for me. But I like DJ Moore. DJ Moore obviously is a play. What do you say though? Also in terms of
I like DJ Moore this week in this game. I really actually like the Chicago side a little bit more. And the reason why is just because obviously the Commanders defense. They've been bend but don't break. And just kind of going and looking back, we talked about it on Tuesday. Caleb Williams has done a really good job against mid to subpar defenses, and the Commanders are a mid to subpar defense. So I really like Caleb Williams this week in this game. If Jaden Daniels, if he does play, I think it's a great way to get into some game stack situations, right? Like we talked about, you can run with Caleb Williams and DJ Moore and run it back with Terry McLaurin. Brian Robinson, obviously you can make a claim for him as far as the game stack here, but this is realistically, man, this is a game right here that for all intents and purposes, you're looking at the two cats that more likely than not are going to be in the running for offensive rookie of the year. It's these two guys right here. Right. So I think this game is getting swept under the rug a little bit just because there's so much going on this week between injuries and you know what I mean. But I definitely like this game for sure. And I mean, even saying that about Terry McLaurin, man, the Bears are actually doing a pretty decent job, man, against wide receivers. So I think, man, I might just end up rolling with the Bears, man. Overall on this game, because I think it could be one of those games just to kind of put it into context really quick. I feel like the Chicago Bears defense could do what the Cleveland Browns defense did against Jaden Daniels. Not shut him down. Jaden Daniels doesn't have a ceiling game. He has a solid game, right? Like what he always does. But I don't think it's a game where he goes out and absolutely breaks the slate. Or anything like that right there. So that would be my only hesitancy. On the other hand of things, I do think Caleb Williams, on the other hand, could be at his price range on FanDuel and on DraftKings, you could plug him in at quarterback. You can run him in a stack. You could leave him alone. And I think he could help you get there and get to some cash, man.
Yeah, I think this is a game I'm keeping my eyes on in terms of it's a later game too. So it's like we can find ourselves. Look, if we don't play someone in the early slate of games for QBs, if Jaden Daniels is playing, he's on track. Like he's somewhere where no one's gonna have any ownership on him at 7,300. In terms of 4 o'clock games. So, but also there's a few pivots at this 4 o'clock game as well. If you think, if you want to just keep that spot open.
Yeah.
Like I know Lamar and Hurts play at 1, Love plays at 1, Burrow plays at 1, Stroud plays at 1 as well.
Patrick Mahomes, man. You can get
Patrick Mahomes plays. Patrick Mahomes plays this later slate. Caleb Williams in the same game plays the later slate, and he's definitely less. So I think Caleb Williams is a good place to start. I don't know what his ownership looks like as well.
And then the other thing,
someone as well, Ryan.
Yeah,
in the later slate.
Well, yeah, but even too, dude. Like if you're playing on FanDuel today, you can still get to Dak Prescott. You can still get to Brock Purdy as well. Caleb Williams coming in at about 8% on DraftKings.
So Caleb Williams 8%.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair enough. I mean, because he opens up so many things from a ceiling perspective as well.
Yeah.
Like, especially if he's going to run the football.
I hate that he's known that much though, because I wanted to get to him, man, and I don't want to get there as much now, man. That's a pretty big number for what I was hoping, man. But whatevs.
That's fair. Excuse me. Fair point. But I like this game's over. I think it's definitely sneaky in terms of both of these games, both of these teams, and we'll just keep it at that. Okay. Chiefs undefeated, going on the road to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Chiefs are a -9 favorite on the road. Raiders are 2-5 on the year. The over is 41.5. Yeah, look, this all goes back to the offseason where the Raiders were literally clowning Mahomes, literally calling him Hermit the Frog. Oh, Hermit the Frog is here with us. Hermit,
yeah.
What do you got to say, Hermit?
Well, I think
Hermit the Frog.
I think that we go out there this week with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. We can go out there and get in the ball. It's just good to be able to see him in an offense now where he's got something to play for. He's been somebody we've been respecting. And our team now, if we look back at 2010, Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, this is Travis Kelce. This is the 2010 team, and we're going to be good.
You think about it, like that's their team now, bro. It's a bunch of old heads, man. It's like the old uncles playing pickup football now, man. You know what I mean? Like Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Kareem Hunt, man. Like they literally got all of the old heads out there, man. Like they're doing the reverse. They're doing the reverse Belichick Patriot thing on offense, man. They're just getting all the old heads in there and like, yo, DeAndre Hopkins. I think like
that thing. Trust me.
Like DeAndre Hopkins, man, he still got game, dude. Like we can sit here and clown if we want to, but he still got game. And you put him together with Patrick Mahomes, man, he's gonna find a way to get open. And if not, Patrick Mahomes is gonna create a way for him to get open. So I think this now kind of give them a different look and a different perspective. I think like one of the other things, man, that's going crazy underlooked, man, is like, yo, Kareem Hunt's actually been okay, man. He's been a lot better than what.
Has?
Yeah. Shut up, man. Shut up, man. Shut up.
What?
Shut up. He's been okay.
What did I do wrong?
Nothing. It's that condescending ass. Yeah, like he's looked good, man. Like he has. Shut up. So I'm playing him in a couple. Couple of tournaments today. Playing DeAndre Hopkins. I think one, I can't remember if it's FanDuel or DraftKings. He's coming in like 5,400 or 5,900, something like that right there. And in a game where you could use this to get him acclimated to the team, I'll take my chances on him as a number 3 wide receiver with the Chiefs, or a number 3 wide receiver with the Chiefs, number 3 wide receiver like on my lineups, and potentially having some number 1, number 2 overall receiver type profile here, if you will, with the Chiefs. I'll take that all day long in a game where I feel like the Chiefs should absolutely show up and show out today against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, like I don't have much hope for the Raiders. Like it's just one of those spots where they've talked a lot of trash. This game should be more, should definitely be competitive for a little
Yeah.
while. But it feels like the Chiefs are just kind of try to come out and just mollywop these dudes, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very valid because I think that them talking a lot of shit over the offseason, look where they at now. And the Chiefs coming in undefeated. I think the Raiders are gonna want to play ball. They feel they have something, they feel like they figured Mahomes out. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll just find out. We'll just find out how this goes. But I think the 9 points, unless we really, I don't know. I think the Chiefs offense has just been looking like an offense where they've just been doing enough to win. And it's the defense has been carrying them. So it's like, there's definitely some things I like from this Chiefs game, like where I think they'll come out with a lot of fire and emotion and want to really try to put a lot of points on the board in this matchup. So I definitely like the over. And I definitely like some props in this game as well. We'll get to in a moment. But I think that Chiefs are going to win this game. Just the 9 points. I'm trying to figure out how the Raiders are going to stay within, confines of the spread here. So that's where it becomes tricky. But I will say that Chiefs are going to definitely win this game. On to Sunday Night Football. On to your Cowgirls. I mean, Cowboys.
My Cowgirls. What's wrong with you?
I was talking to the audience.
Oh, it's like, what? Oh, man, that shit happened 2 weeks ago, man.
I was talking to the audience.
Shit happened 2 weeks ago.
Don't insult my intelligence. I know who your team is.
Oh, I thought that. No, I know. I just thought it was just one of them backhanded compliment things.
No. Yeah, the Cowgirls.
Who in the hell? So, okay, go ahead.
I know. All right. Okay. Let's get focused. All right, we're getting off track. Cowgirls facing the.
Cowgirls facing the Niners is where we're at. Is Nick is now back now. So see, look at that. I didn't even have to do anything.
Sure am. Cowgirls taking on the Niners. That might have been a Halloween thing. Good call. Cowgirls getting 4.5 on the road, going to the Niners, where this is one of those spots where it's spooky for Dallas. No Micah Parsons officially. Lawrence is still on the IR. No Bland, he's still on the IR. Like, where is this pass rush going to come from for Purdy? Because I'm having a hard time finding out how Dallas is only getting 4.5. Where he probably should be getting this should be a 7.5 spread for the Cowgirls here. The only way you're hoping that Dak and CD get on the same page here. From all things considered, whether you're playing some DFS later on tonight, or whether you're playing, just season long with some of these guys, you're just hoping that this is a bounce back spot. So yeah, look, I'm taking the Niners, and I'm taking them with the points. I know they're banged up. I know there's not Ayuk, but Debo should be playing. Kittle should be in there already. He's already gonna play. You still got one of the better offensive lines in the league. So, facing against a Dallas defense, I have no idea where the pressure is going to come, unless they completely change their game plan this week and where the pressures may come. Like they take a corner and they blitz them. Like, because Purdy's not doesn't do well against the pressure. Doesn't do well against the pressure, especially this season on dropbacks. He's contested blitzes. Like, he doesn't do well. So I think that's what the Cowgirls definitely see. But also with the Niners side of things, I think Jordan Mason should be healthy for this matchup, and they should just be able to do what they need to do against these Cowboys. So, what do you say in this matchup in terms of this later on? We'll probably have a single game parlay for this later on, but
yeah,
all things considered,
I think like it's like right, like I talked about it on Tuesday, man. Like, there's reports now that Christian McCaffrey is expected to come back in week 10. So I think like you get a better performance from Jordan Mason. I think the Cowboys have struggled against the run. If you're playing on FanDuel this week, Jordan Mason is a great play on FanDuel to slide into your tournaments. He's one of the lower priced, higher tier running backs, if that makes sense. So I feel good about that. I do feel okay about CD Lamb as well. He was somebody that like I tried to figure out if there was a way for me to possibly work a game stack in here with this one, but it's just everybody's too damn expensive, man. Between Jordan Mason, this is on FanDuel, between Jordan Mason and CD Lamb, pretty damn expensive. Dak's a pretty cheap option. If you're looking to do something like that, you can always go with Jake Ferguson on National Tight End Day today. So I think you could do something like that right there. The same thing with George Kittle. But I'm curious to see what's going to come from the other San Francisco 49er wide receiver. Who's that second wide receiver going to be? With Jawan Jennings being out, Brandon Ayuk obviously being done for the year. So I'm really curious to see how that shakes, which that's why I'm a little bit more interested in Jordan Mason this week, because I do think Debo is going to be playing, but I don't know how healthy he is. So, yeah, I mean, that's like if I had to pick a player that I really love from this game, it would be Jordan Mason. That would be the player that I would really say that I really liked. And then just kind of moving down, Jake Ferguson would be the second player that I would say that I would really be interested in just from a pricing perspective on FanDuel.
Makes sense. Makes a ton of sense. You're hoping it's a CD bounce back game tonight. Actually, I hope it doesn't happen so I can buy low on him this week.
Shut up, man. You're ridiculous. Oh my god.
If I can buy low on him on Tuesday,
Love
that'd be great. Honestly, hopefully the Niners shut him down. But fuck the Cowboys. Moving on to probably the lowest over overall in all the games this week. Giants getting 5.5 on the road, going to your Pittsburgh Steelers. Over on 36.5 right now. Hoo-wee. Talk about a defensive slugfest. What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson overall and how good he looked? Is that an anomaly, or is that something we should be expecting to see moving forward? In terms of your Steelers in general, like this should be a somewhat easy win here. Against the Giants, who defensively look decent, but just offensively, versus the Steeler defense, like, your guys, TJ Watt, Highsmith, JPJ, like, just, Fitzpatrick, like, just there's a lot to, take on for the Giants here where they barely couldn't muster anything against the Eagles, and their defense wasn't looking that great either. This now you got a Steelers powerhouse coming on. You got to take them on at their place. Seems like a very rough spot for the Giants coming in.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough spot. And one of the places Tomlin and the Steelers have been really good at is they've been really good.
Pretty good chance that Jane Daniels plays today, according to Rappaport, and the Commanders are optimistic he'll play.
Okay.
I'm try to probably lock it over in and out before it goes up.
Yeah, man. This is a game where I think, like, obviously, like I said, man, Tomlin and the Steelers, man, have been, historically really good on Monday Night Football. So that's one thing they have going for them. They're playing a quarterback that does turn the football over, which again is another pro for them. I think, the matchup for me that, of course, I'm going to be interested to see is Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, how they handle Malik Neighbors. That's really the matchup for me that I'm going to be interested to see how that shakes. And then, man, like the Giants, like realistically, man, like they haven't been bad, like defensively. I think we've talked about that kind of ad nauseum. They haven't been bad defensively. And I think this could be one of those games where you call it, it's a slugfest. It's a lower over under. And as far as Russ, like the one thing that like, just listening to interviews and watching some of the games and watching what some of the guys had to say about him, just talking about like, just talking about, hey man, what up? Just talking about how he had control of the offense. And I think like that was something that really stood out to me, just as far as pass protections, coverages, and just, commanding the huddle. That's something that I think was really huge. So, it could have been a one-game thing, but like I'm going to be optimistic and I'm going to say, hey, man, like he's going to show back up and he's going to do the same thing. Because one things I think we can always say about Russell Wilson, he's never been guilty of, he's always been guilty of being is a consummate pro, a hard worker, all of those things. So I think like that just kind of fits like right into what it is they've got going on. I've seen some stuff too, man, where there was a play that Russell Wilson had made, and I think he threw it to Pickens, and Justin Fields was on the sideline. Justin Fields was just, his body language was happy that the play was happening or that it did happen. And I just think like, for Tomlin and the Steelers, man, like you finally have a locker room full of guys. I know George Pickens is his own entity, but you have a locker room full of guys who are genuinely happy and genuinely supportive of the other players around him. Beanie Bishop last week, right? Like you've seen how excited all the guys were for him. Yep, I'm sorry, I got to go there. So yeah, I say all that to say, man, I just think like this is absolutely a game where the Steelers handle business. It shouldn't even be close. If this was a Sunday game at 1:00, I would be a little bit more nervous just because this is typically your Tomlin trap game. But it's Monday Night Football, and I think they're in a really good spot, man. Sorry,
yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
To bring up Beanie Bishop again.
Whatever. He's a bum. But I mean, look, I think the Giants, they're just in a tough spot coming in. You know what I'm saying? So I would have taken the Steelers anyway, but this makes it too ezy. This makes it too easy. I think Najee Harris can have a game again, and then it's a bye week for the Steelers. So trying to see if I could sell high on Najee Harris before he runs over these Giants again. Gets a nice victory and get a nice package.
Gonna happen too.
Might just happen. But yeah, that's all the breakdowns for the games. Let's go to Dylan real quick so we get his question answered. So he is a 4-point PPR in different leagues. Okay, so there's gonna definitely be a lot of questions or a couple questions here. So in the first league, he has start 2 flexes, and then he has all right. So we'll just go over the 2 flexes first. Bateman, Odunze, Shakir, or Olave. Pick 2 out of those. To answer his first question, I would probably go Olave and probably Shakir because I need to see how Odunze comes out after the bye week and how they'll hopefully implement him more. Because as we know, rookie receivers get more stronger as the week goes on. The only reason why I'm not playing Bateman at the moment is because I think the Browns defense can still make things muddled for the Ravens. Unless we get that, unless we get that explosive, air yards down the field play like we got last week for Bateman. He becomes one of those guys where he's not as consistent. So, in season long, we want a little bit more consistency versus ambiguity. But I would say Olave, and then I would start Shakir because Shakir should be in a game where we love in terms of an over, in which the ball should get more, out as well from Josh Allen. So I like Shakir, I like Olave. What do you say, Johnny, the first one?
First time we actually agreed. Same thing, man. Like I think first time. Shakir, yeah, I think like Shakir goes back to kind of his natural position, which is really more of a wide receiver too. And I think now, the coverages aren't going to be rolled to him and things like that. So I think, he should be able to run a little bit freer. So I do like him, and I like Olave because Spencer Rattler, he said hey, he's going to throw him the football. So if that's the case, man, and we expect the Saints to probably be playing from behind. I like both of those plays for sure.
Okay. Tight end, he's got Kmet and Ertz. I'd probably say Kmet because, I would have probably said Ertz if Mario had any type of chance to play. Just because Mariota doesn't, he's still got to be conservative more with the ball, and I would probably open up more things for Ertz. But I would say Kmet because he has a little bit more of a ceiling at the moment. The Bears just find weird ways to get Kmet the ball. So, and I can't exactly explain it because I didn't like Kmet coming into the season.
Nobody did.
But I'd start Kmet over Ertz in this situation. The next question. I'm sorry, you got Kmet as well, Johnny?
Yeah, there's I couldn't go Ertz.
I didn't want to speak for you.
No.
So the next league is start 1 QB, 2 running back, 1 receiver, 1 flex. Eesh. Okay. So those are 3 different questions the same. So 1 QB, Tua, Daniels, Kirk. That's tough because now we're hearing word on Daniels starting. But I imagine he shouldn't be running as much, especially with ribs.
Yeah.
And then Kirk, so then it comes down. But Daniel's been hot all year, and he could do it with his arm. I don't know. That's tough. And then Tua or Kirk Cousins as well in this question. My stab is I'm just going to probably take Kirk Cousins just to be safe.
Really?
Because I don't know what Tua is going to look like this week in a way as well. In a way.
But so you're not going to play Jaden Daniels?
I know, right? That's tough. I said the safer option would be Kirk Cousins. I probably would still play Daniels.
Yeah.
It's just the questionable ribs, man. It's always one of those tricky situations where it's like ribs is one of those situations where you get hit hard enough, you're
Right.
out. You're out. You already saw earlier last week against the Carolina Panthers. Like, if the rib injury was significant enough for him to stay out the game, he only played like one or two. Like, how many plays did he even play? Like one.
I don't even know. Like
barely a series.
Yeah, I was about to say it wasn't much.
Re-injury risk for ribs is definitely one of those places where you get shit. You know, I've had that, not broken rib, but I've had some very sore ribs before, getting hit in the helmet several times in that area, even with a flak jacket on. So it's definitely tough. But I mean, obviously, you're probably playing Daniels because he gives you the most ceiling out of these guys. But I would still weigh your options here because I would just tell people, in this situation, I'd tell people to go with their gut because they're not exactly making a wrong choice here. Like, in my opinion, because all these QBs we all kind of have really highly. But I would say, I'd probably say like Daniels because he's been doing nothing but spectacular for you. But if you were trying to play a safe situation, I like Kirk James because look, I think in terms of the matchup, like I said, Tampa Bay gives up the third most pass yards to QBs. And I just think that is a decent matchup to hang our hats on as well. What do you say, Johnny, that question for the QB?
Yeah, man. For me, I'm probably just playing Jaden Daniels, man. Like I am playing Jaden Daniels in some leagues, and I do have some other options. One league I actually have Jordan Love. So obviously to still roll out Jaden Daniels as opposed to Jordan Love. I feel like, hey, if he's out there, you go ahead and run it. So I'm going Jaden Daniels, and then obviously Kirk Cousins would be my second option. And then out of the two running backs, I would definitely go K9 and J.K. Dobbins. Those would be the two for me. And then Garrett Wilson, Scary Terry, and D-Hop. If you got Jaden Daniels, you got to have Scary Terry. You know what I mean? But that's obviously because I'm going with Jaden Daniels. If I was going with Kirk Cousins, I probably would still go with Terry McLaurin, to be honest with you. Yeah. It would either be Scary Terry or Garrett Wilson for sure.
Okay,
that's a weird one. It's a weird one.
I know. Yeah,
that's a weird one. Because I think D-Hop is definitely going to get some work today. There is no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Let's see. So starting two running backs.
Actually, no, screw that. Give me Garrett Wilson, man. Give me Garrett Wilson.
Ooh, give him Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, give me Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Running backs are pretty straightforward, I feel. It should be K9, it should be Jacobs for the running backs. Just because you feel good about their workloads. Then when it comes to starting one receiver and then one flex, the receiver I would start. The receiver I would probably start is definitely D-Hop, and then the flex would be Garrett Wilson. Between Garrett Wilson or Jacob Dobbins for me, J.K. Dobbins for me for the flex. Just because we know Dobbins is going to be in a good game script. Now we know Al-Lazar is going to be out, so I think G-Well probably gets a good more usage bump for this matchup. In a game, and both those game environments, they're not exactly like shootouts perspective either. So if you really want to go a little bit more safer, I would say Dobbins because he's going to get the workload. Excuse me, he's going to get the workload. But I mean, honestly, like D-Hop, I expect D-Hop to have a good game this week. I think McLaurin might get a little slowed down this week against a good Bears defense. So I think that's where you're probably gonna get the Jalen Johnson matchup, and that's not a good one.
That's where I went to it. That's all I was like, give me Garrett Wilson. Give me Garrett Wilson.
It's not a good one.
Yeah, give me Garrett Wilson.
So I hope that helped out, Dylan. Feel free to definitely come on. Anytime you like, hit us up on Twitter as well for any other questions you may need. But in terms of that, I got the prop shop to get to, and then we have our locks for the slate. So prop shop, it wasn't the best week, honestly. We went 5-8 this past week. On 13 bets, made a little money because some of those were plus money, but it wasn't that great of a week. We'll get back to it right now. Prop shop 42-38 on the year, so it's not too shabby. We're still a little over 500 for transparency purposes, but I expect us to get right back to where we're gonna get to because I got some mean ones this week that we should be hitting a ton of this week. First one I got is Brees Hall over 69.5 rush yards. I took this like Wednesday, so this line went up to like 76. I probably still feel comfortable about that because the Jets are in a game script wise are in a good spot. Next play I got is in the same game. So I got Njoku over 56.5 receiving yards. I got Tillman over 39.5 receiving yards. I think Winston's just going to look to chuck the ball like he always looks to do. We're hoping that's the case because that's the only way the Browns are going to stay in it. I think you could take Jerry Jeudy, props as well, but I just wasn't too sure. I just think that Tillman has a unique skill set. We see him at UT. So in terms of we've seen Tillman at UT before. I think he's one of those polished receivers that didn't get enough attention in his draft class. And Njoku, for obvious reasons, because he should be the number one target in this offense coming in. Next one, Mixon. I think his line also moved, so double check that. Mixon over 74.5 rush yards. Look, said it earlier, Colts give up second most rush yards to running backs in a year. Look, Mixon tore apart these guys first week as well. And that's highly scoring game as well. So I think Mixon's going to easily hit this over. It's a little bit too low for me. The Packers-Jaguars game. We go to Lawrence over 230 pass yards and Ingram over 50 receiving yards. In order for the Jaguars to have an opportunity, both these guys are going to have to get the ball. Ingram's going to have to get the ball. And Lawrence got to keep on chucking the ball in this game. So I expect Brian Thomas to also get there, but I think Ingram is a little bit more easier because, the Packers are going to have, McKinley on Brian Thomas. They're going to have, Jair Alexander on him. So it's just, I think it's one of those matchups where they could be susceptible still, good matchups, but it's like also they have to keep on throwing the ball. Ingram's over receptions was 5.5 plus money, but I was like not trying to take that honestly. Raiders Chiefs game, got a couple here. So we got Mahomes over 239.5 pass yards. We got Hunt over 67.5 rush yards and the anytime touchdown because he's been a monster. The Raiders they just give up touchdowns to the running backs this year. It's a gimme spot. And then on the back end of that, if you want to make this a little mini single game parlay, like I said, for something like this, you can because Brock Bowers over 63.5 receiving yards. I think the receptions line, I think was 6.5. I think I checked last time for the receptions line. And he had like 9 last week. So he's pretty much the offense, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't expect anybody else. I mean, maybe get a little Trey Tucker, maybe get a little weird this week. You might know Jacoby Myers is back. So that didn't make my short list, but that's somewhere I think Myers can easily hit that 41.5 over. So there's that. But I think for receptions, Bowers was, so the plus money right now, FanDuel was over 6.5. He should probably clear that line too, but I didn't want to touch it because I think Bowers can get the 63 yards. Like I took him a couple weeks ago against Denver. He hit this receiving line in like one pass, in like one completion. Yeah. So it's totally possible for Bowers to hit that 63.5 easily. And all of these are singles, by the way. I'm just pulling them all together because they're in the same game. Barkley over 70.5 rush yards, baby. We all know the Bengals stink against running backs. Devontae Smith is a bounce back spot, 54.5 receiving yards because he's not going to have negative yards this week. And I think that the Eagles are going to have to, in order to stay competitive in this game, they'll have to get Devontae Smith the ball as well. I think it's more of a squeaky wheel narrative here for Devontae Smith. Going back to the Bucks and the Falcons game, we got Rachaad White over 21.5 receiving yards. This should be a smash because of the way the game plan for him. Bucky Irving is available, so they probably should still be using Bucky Irving between the tackles. But Rachaad White's definitely the pass game type of running back, and with all the injuries happening to the Bucks, this should be an easy smash for Rachaad White. The over 241 pass yards for Cousins is easy. We talked about this earlier, but the Bucks give up the third most pass yards to QBs. Last but not least, we have a Bears, stacky. Stacky. Caleb Williams over 227 pass yards, and then DJ Moore over 59.5 receiving yards. Both these guys have to get on the same page in order for them to win this game, and I think that's totally possible here because Caleb Williams has been showing that he's been morphing into more of a QB. The Chicago Bears offensive lines look a little bit more cleaner. So I do expect Caleb Williams and DJ Moore to get this over as well in terms of that. So we have total of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have a total of we got a lot of bets on the board. So let's improve that record. So yeah, I think in total we'll go back. But those are the picks we got for the next prop shop this week in terms of the picks. Gonna go lock of the slate, and then we're gonna close out the show. So Johnny, what do you got for the lock of the slate for DFS purposes?
Oh man,
what you got?
Let's see
What
here.
you got?
All right, let me take a look here and see, man. Not playing a lot of lineups this week, but like I said, man, a couple places that I'm really, really comfortable getting to in some capacity. Give me something from the Green Bay game, preferably Jordan Love. Give me something from that Seattle and Atlanta game as well. I feel really good about that one. Amari Cooper coming in at a really mint price. Kenneth Walker, still not quite priced as one of the 3 best running backs in the NFL, so you might want to get on that while you can. Just be mindful of your Miami situation. I know they're very popular this week. I think I said something like around 70% of ownership is focused around the Miami players as a whole. Be mindful of that. Everybody's picking them, so everybody can't have the same thing. We all can't have nice things. So pick one and have fun, or pick none would be my advice to you. Obviously, it could blow up in my face. That's kind of where I'm at, man. And obviously, like I said, man, a lot of talented players in the Philadelphia-Cincinnati game. A.J. Brown, that's the best play for me in that game. Those players are super expensive. If you want to get to them, be thinking Tyler Boyd, be thinking Jamison Williams, be thinking Sterling Shepard, be thinking Cedric Tillman, be thinking those players if you are trying to get to the upper echelon of players.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think winners are going to be decided with this 4:00 slate.
Yeah.
So with lock of the slate for me, I have Amari as my lock because I just think that this price tag $6K, and with the environment that he's going to be in, where even if we think Seattle has the potential to be up in this game, they're going to have to throw the football to Amari. And I think another week under the Bills regime should get Amari Cooper a touchdown, maybe potentially 2. And at $6K, definitely too cheap. I like Rashad White at 5,700 as a lock as well. The guy is going to just get peppered with targets now, as it should be. I know he only got 6 last week, but guess what he did with those 6 targets? 6 catches. So he went 6 for 6, 71 receiving yards, and 2 scores. Now we're talking about no Mike Evans. Now we're talking about no Godwin. So what everybody put in there, what everybody's shifting their attention to McMillan and Otten and stuff like that for the cheaper plays. Give me a little bit more of a little bit less mid-range play with Rashad White at 5,700. And if you really want to go a little bit more cheaper, potentially the ownership is going to probably be a little lower. Give me DeAndre Hopkins at 4,900.
Yeah, talk about it, baby.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, again, if we think the Chiefs are going to try to go scorch earth on the Raiders, I think I definitely like that as far as Hopkins goes. And then give me Kareem Hunt at 6,300. He's been too hot. And he's definitely the back in the Kansas City offense. And if we think that Mahomes is not going to, for some reason, get to his passing yards prop, we know Kareem Hunt got there along with a touchdown. So I definitely like, for DFS purposes, I like Kareem Hunt as well. So those are my locks of the slate. I got them locked in to a good majority of my lineups. John A., we got one more question. We got one more question. Sports Spotlight says, since Higgins is out, it's a scramble drill now. It's a scramble drill. Ladd, Ridley, Wicks, Pearsall. Which one? I know. I know. That's very intriguing, right? I know.
2 weeks ago, I would have died on a hill for Calvin Ridley, but now not so much. Which will probably be which this will be the week he comes out and breaks the slate.
I think I
You
gotta
know,
play him now. Because this might be the
why
week.
not? Why not?
It's
Why not?
5,200. It might be the week.
Why not? Why not? You know, I would say, man, like just kind of like looking at it, I would say Lad McConkey is probably in the best situation because we just don't know about Ricky Pearsall. I mean, Ricky Pearsall probably has a better matchup going against the Dallas Cowboys. They've been giving it up to everybody. Calvin Ridley can't get open, and the offensive coordinator came out this week and was like, "Yo, like we're gonna stop trying to force feed him." So like, there's that. So you don't have to worry about that. Dontavian Wicks, you know, there's the ball could go to anybody in Green Bay. So if I had to prioritize these guys, I'd probably say McConkey, Wicks, Pearsall, Ridley.
This is like gonna sound unlike me, but I'm going Ridley, and it's because
Oh my god,
I
dude!
know.
I could come through the screen right. I
know.
could come through the screen right now on you so bad, bro. Oh my god.
I know.
Oh my
But
god, man.
quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, look, I think Ridley is just in a prime spot, like for a squeaky wheel, and also like look at the spread. They're down 12.5 points. How are they going to be competitive outside of Pollard? It's going to be Calvin Ridley. It has to be. So,
my phone is
like,
going to be on
especially
silent all day long. I don't want to hear anything else. I'm done.
I don't want to hear anything else. But look, I think he should start Ridley. I think Wicks is obviously a little bit more safer. I like Ladd too. So I think I like Ladd as well because I definitely told a couple people definitely trade for him in your leagues today. But I like Ladd as well, so that's a little bit more trickier. I just think if you want a ceiling upside, it's going to be Ridley because they're going to be constantly throwing the football in this game. If Detroit definitely gets up, so that's why I like there. And then one last question because we are about to get out of here.
Yeah.
Half point PPR 12 teams start 2. Waddle, Moore, Chubb, McMillan. Oh, another question with Waddle and Moore in it. I think half point PPR. I like Moore, and I like. Boy, I don't know. That second one's a little trickier.
More, and then like,
because Chubb was getting used in the pass game last week too.
Yeah, he was, man. He was.
But
if everything is right, so it's almost like, all right, like who do you trust more? Like Tua and a healthy Tua and Waddle, or Chubb, 1 week after all this going against the Baltimore Ravens.
I know, right? Yeah, I know.
I'd take my chances on Waddle.
I think I would too. The game environment spells for that. And then Tua, Golf, or Cousins. So probably would say is it 4 point or 6 point touch? Either way. Yeah. Probably would say Tua in this one, just because we expect the game environment to be really healthy. Cousins the same thing, and then Golf could be like he's one of those floor type of QBs where I don't think he's going to go for 300 passing yards today in this matchup.
No.
So especially if we think Detroit's just going to keep on running the football. Agenda wise, they're at home, so I would say it goes Tua, Cousins, or Cousins, Tua, and then Golf. So you can start either Tua or Cousins for me.
I would say either Tua or Cousins would definitely be the play for me, because I think like this week definitely feels like a 240 yards and 2 touchdowns kind of day for Golf, whereas Kirk Cousins, man, could be 375 and 3. I think obviously we know with Tua what it could be with all the weapons out there in a game that could potentially hit 50 or higher. So yeah.
And that's what we got, folks. And that's what we got for y'all. Any final thoughts, Johnny?
No, man. Like I've said them all, man. You know what I mean? 4 o'clock games. You mentioned them. You mentioned it, man. 4 o'clock games. Like that's where the money's gonna be made today. Like I said, I'm really loving Amari Cooper this week for sure. I mean, that's really pretty much it, man. Like there's not a lot more, man. Like if you're playing on FanDuel, play Jordan Mason. I think that's a really great play. Be on the lookout for Jaden Daniels in terms of if he's playing, obviously in the 4 o'clock game. DeAndre Hopkins is way too cheap. DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper. Talked about the cheap wide receivers until I'm blue in the face, but I'll say it again. Cedric Tillman, Tyler Boyd, Sterling Shepard. Tucker Kraft is somebody I'm all in on at the tight end position this week. Kenneth Walker still underpriced, still not being priced like one of the top running backs in the NFL like he is. Jameis Winston going against a defense that gives up a lot of pass yards, so another cheap option as well. Jordan Love, baby, get in where you fit in.
That's real. I think final thoughts for me is let's win some damn money this week. And I watch some great ass football. That's simple.
I'll be taking family pictures watching football, so I got you.
I'll be doing laundry.
Love it.
Boy. All right, folks. We are about to get out of here. We can't let you go without telling you guys about our next show, which is Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Waiver Wire advice episode talking about everything that we just saw week 8 in the NFL landscape. So we'll be recapping that, telling you guys what you guys should be looking upon for the week when it comes to players picking up, potential injuries that may come, stuff like that, potential bye week replacements, all that type of stuff. But we got you guys. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next show. Until then, peace out.